Greetings everyone, welcome to Chess Advanced, and this is from the round 4 of Fujairah Global 2025. And with the with the black pieces, we have an absolute legend. We have Vasyl Ivanchuk, the most spectacular player, and also one of the most experienced players, and also one of the most amazing attacking players of his time. And we have Ido Gorshtein with the white pieces. He's a grandmaster from Israel, and Vasyl is obviously from Ukraine. So this is going to be an epic matchup. Let's see what happens, and let's see what with the black pieces, how Vasyl is able to cope up with another attacker with the white pieces. So without further ado, let's start this game. C4 was played by Ido. Now comes E5 by Vasyl. We have G3, knight to C6, and bishop G2. We go into the English opening. King's English variation G6, and now just going for this knight to C3, and now we transpose into the reverse Sicilian, the close variation, bishop D7, rook to B1, and now just going for A5. So both players are just trying to just get towards that center, maybe just develop castle. Maybe if you have the opportunity to push d5, I mean that's not going to happen, but still. A3, we have knight to f6, b4, and just a captures castles, and now just comes this d3. Now knight to e7, and now just queen to b3. So all in all, position is looking very nice. Most likely white is going to castle. How do you ever plan to just expand in the center? You have to be very much careful. Your bishop is not developed, few more pieces in, and I think the position would not be that good as it is right now. So you have to be very careful here. D6 is a very nice move. Just opens up the room for the bishop to be developed, and knight to f3 now, but just h6 we have castles, bishop to e6, and now you cannot push. So you have to be a little bit careful. What are you going to do about it in this position? Just b5, and asking, well, how are you going to deal with the threat of somewhere along the line, just going for this, maybe just pushing that pawn. So there are a lot of things in the position, but first you have to move the queen out of the way, otherwise you just lose the queen to d7. But now just comes this bishop to a3, bishop to h3. Now asking for a bishop trade, we have c5, and finally just going for that, just because you moved that. And now white is playing towards the queen side. Black is ignoring him and trying to play towards the king side, but black's attack is something that's not going to happen, simply because of the fact that you don't have that many pieces to attack. And now just bishop to e6 was played, attacking the queen because you allowed it, queen to b2, and now just comes b6. So what do? Either you trade here, or you just push all the way. Well, white decides to go for c caps on d6, and there is nothing wrong with it, absolutely fine. But I think pushing it would be like inviting if you close the queen side, then you have to understand that that was where your initiative was. And if you don't trade and you close it up, then it just gets diminished a little bit. But I guess that would be fine as well. There was no issues. You could just you have the open maybe you could just shift towards the open a file, and then you can start your attack towards the queen side, and it would have been fine. And you controlling all the squares with the queen being passive with the pawn on a c6 and b5, the position would have been actually very amazing. But instead white decided to go for this line, and let's see how he's able to deal with this, because here rook f to c1 now, but rook f to c8 opposing that rook. And now just comes e4, knight to e8, and now remaneuvering that knight, trying to maybe just push d5. And if well, Ido allows it, Vasyl is definitely going to push e5, rook to c2 now, d5, sorry, not e5, d5 I was talking about, but just bishop captures on e7. We have d captures, not even trading back, now just going for well, you could actually take, but in this position here, the best move is just d captures, because here after queen captures, now you play rook to c1, and you have a very fine position. There is no issues in the position. Maybe with the move like knight to d6, you play knight to d5, bishop captures, and well, probably not bishop captures. You have to understand knight to d5 does not work, simply because of the fact that your position gets very weak. So here after that, you don't even have that pawn, although you have a pass pawn. But after trading everything, you'll see that black is the one who's going to be pushing it. So instead, not going for that, not going there, but you could move the knight back and maybe just remaneuver it to a perfect square with the rooks on c file and queen here. Most likely it's going to end in a draw, but still white is going to have some initiative. But here after d captures, here trying to be greedy, white goes for bishop to b4, and now that is not a good move, not because of captures. And I'm going to ask you to pause the video. You can pause the video if you think you can just find the move, but I'm just going to show it nonetheless. We have E captures, and now Vasyl is a piece down, but he has a spectacular position. Rook c to c1 was played, but now comes e4. Now you have connected passes, and for the price of a piece, is it good enough compensation? Well, we're gonna have to see. But Vasyl, whenever he calculates precisely. So let's see what he has in mind. Knight to d2, but just f5, rook to a1, and now just going for this knight to d6, not trading pieces, but white trades because he knows that his position is very, very worse. If he allows the attacker in the position, he's gonna most likely have to resign. Rook captures, and now just comes this queen to b1, but hey, just knight captures, so scrapping that pawn. Now this is another passer, so you get three passes for the price of the pawn, and that's absolutely amazing compensation. White is just pushed towards the backside, and when you're pushed towards your back foot, it's always better to just organize your pieces. I mean, put them on better squares, at least hope for something that your opponent blunders and you might be able to get out of it. But in this position, just knight caps on b5 was played, trying to trade more pieces, but it doesn't work in your favor. Queen captures, but now just comes bishop to d6, asking for a queen trade, but here Vasyl happily trades. Queen captures, rook captures, and he knows that the endgame is completely in his favor. Bishop to d4 now, and now controlling a lot of squares actually. And also the threat is just this: you will not be able to move the bishop, not be able to move the knight, because that pawn would hang and the position would completely collapse if that pawn hangs, because you'll have four pawns for the sacrifice piece and your position is just spectacularly winning. H4, but a rook to a2 now, and just bishop to f4 defending everything. But now comes h5, and now there is just very much difficult you can do. I mean, this bishop is completely locked in. This bishop is stuck defending the knight. The rook cannot move from the back ranks. It's like basically kind of like a few moves sukswang. There is nothing you can do in this position. King to f1 was played, but now just comes bishop to c3, and now we have king to e1. But is king to e1 a good move? Absolutely not. B5, and the issue with b5 is you cannot go rook captures on b5. If you're wondering about that, well, yeah, there is that. No, that's not going to work. Rook to a1, and now you have to move the rook back. Rook captures, and this is actually checkmate because there are no squares and you cannot capture because your knight is pinned, so you have to be careful. King to d1 was played, but now just comes this b4, and I mean, there is nothing you can do. All you can do is resign in this position, but few more moves are played. Bishop to e3, bishop to d7, and it was also on this move, on move 36, that Ido Gorshtein resigned the game, and Vasyl Ivanchuk, the legend, got this spectacular victory in just 36 moves, sacrificing a piece, got four pawns for the compensated piece, pushed all the way, and crushed his opponent. And that's like, the vintage Vasyl Ivanchuk as we know it. But by his opponent resigned, well, the simple thing in this position is you have to understand there is nothing in this position you can do. Even if you go for the best defense, which is this king to e1, then comes this bishop to a4, and now the position is just absolutely crumbling. You play f3, trying to open up the position, trying to go for captures maybe somewhere along the line. But after bishop captures on d2, you play bishop captures, and now comes the beautiful idea, e3, sacrificing a pawn for some material. You cannot do this because just bishop captures, but there is nothing else. Bishop captures, now you play rook to e2 check, not even going for the bishop, but after king to f1, rook caps on e3, after rook caps on b4, you play d2, and now unfortunately after rook to b1, it's actually a mate in 9 moves. Can you see it? Well, if you want to calculate, you can do that, but I'm just going to show it to you. Bishop to b5 check, king moves, and now just rook to e2 check, king moves, rook to e1 check, and after captures, you get the queen into the game, and now you're most likely getting checkmated. How it's going to happen: king to h2, queen to f2, king to h3, queen to g1, and after g4, you play f4, but after g5, only legal move, but hey, just bishop to d7, and now the queen is covering all of those squares, so and pawn is covering that, so that would be checkmate, and that's how the position would have ended. And even if you try to push f3 right away, it doesn't work. Bishop to a4 check, and wherever you move, you're either going to lose material or you're just getting absolutely crushed. So there is nothing in this position, and that's why here on this move after bishop to d7, realizing this, Ido Gorshtein resigned the game, and Vasyl just plays spectacular chess, and it's absolutely always very, very happy to analyze his games because of the way he plays, and yeah, it's amazing. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I'll be coming back with games like these, so stay tuned, stay updated to the channel, and yeah, I'll be seeing you guys very, very soon. Thank you for watching.